Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at some very fun battles in the Open Ultra League featuring a very spicy Pokemon, level 50.5 Shadow DUSKNOIR. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Super Shadow number 0, so many thanks for the battle submission. And as always, with a Super Shadow submission, it's a triple Shadow team. The DUSKNOIR is on the lead, and Shadow Kingdra and Shadow Alolan Muck are in the back. And this trainer Shadow DUSKNOIR just keeps Ominous Wind boosting throughout the battles, and it leads to some very fun results. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping to the first match, picking up a bit of a tricky lead, Shadow DUSKNOIR into Gliscor. Gliscor, of course, does have access to Night Slash, attempting to go for the Night Slash catch, but great patience shown by the opponent. They hold on to the energy, and they're able to connect with an Earthquake, dealing massive damage to Shadow Kingdra. Opponent is going to send in Golisopod. Golisopod is able to make it to a charge move before Kingdra is able to make the Outrage. Kingdra committing the shield, building up to the Outrage, baiting with the Octazooka here, hoping for the shield, and gets the attack debuff as well. So the opponent's damage output from the Golisopod has now been severely reduced, and in comes the Shadow Alolan Muck. Muck is going to be able to tank that debuff liquidation very, very comfortably. It looks like Muck is going to try and commit to a farm down here. Muck able to withstand this damage no problem, as liquidation won't even be enough to get Muck below red health. Opponent in the back, they have Cobalion, and this is absolutely terrible for the Alolan Muck. It's going to be up to DUSKNOIR to try and win this game. In comes the DUSKNOIR, going for the Ominous Wind. Opponent makes a nice catch onto the Gliscor. Ominous Wind connects, and there's the Ominous Wind boost from the DUSKNOIR. DUSKNOIR, a decision to make here. Going to let the Night Slash through. Night Slash hitting for super effective damage. DUSKNOIR going to fire off another Ominous Wind. Ominous Wind, it's boosted. It is going to pick up the KO. Back in comes Cobalion. Cobalion going to be met with a boosted Ominous Wind from the DUSKNOIR. This Ominous Wind is going to be no-shielded. We see another boost. Decision time here. Do you shield? Do you call the bait? Calls the Sacred Sword bait. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Shadow DUSKNOIR into Alolan Muck. Now, the poison jabs from the Alolan Muck are resisted, but unfortunately, the energy from the DUSKNOIR is heavily resisted, so I do really like the play to bank a bunch of energy, switch out, and catch a Dark Pulse. So now we have the mirror Alolan Muck versus Alolan Muck, but one is Shadow and one is not. Opponent goes for a second Dark Pulse. That is still not going to be enough to KO, and this is going to be very close. Can the Shadow Alolan Muck make it to Dark Pulse number 2? Dark Pulse number 1 is going to connect. Can Muck survive the poison jabs? Yes, it can, with a fraction of HP remaining, making it to Dark Pulse number 2, and being able to grab a shield from the opponent. Unfortunately, not able to make a play for switch advantage. The opponent left with a move, so I like the decision to send in the Kingdra here, and basically just use Kingdra as a damage sponge. Kingdra able to tank the Dark Pulse and get the farm down. Opponent gonna send in Trevenant, farming up here, just going for the Octazooka. If the opponent's counting, they know that this is well short of an Outrage, and they are. We now see the switch into DUSKNOIR as the opponent fires off the energy, and unfortunately, we did not see a debuff from Octazooka. And now DUSKNOIR going for the Ominous Wind. This is super effective damage to the Trevenant. Trevenant commits the shield. In the back, it's Giratina, not opting to go for the Shadow Ball. Instead, fishing for another boost. Ominous Wind connects. There's the boost right on cue. 2 boosts last game, and now our first boost of game number 2. Opponent goes for the Dragon Claw, but they lose charge attack priority to the DUSKNOIR. DUSKNOIR picks up the KO with the Ominous Wind. We see another boost. DUSKNOIR on a boosted rampage. Oh my goodness. Ominous Wind KOs the Trevenant, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Shadow DUSKNOIR into Walrein, a type neutral matchup, which typically is not going to be favoring the DUSKNOIR, unless of course the DUSKNOIR does get an Ominous Wind boost. We see an early shield from the DUSKNOIR, looking to preserve HP. DUSKNOIR continuing to farm. We're now going to see a switch out and a catch of the Icicle Spear onto the Shadow Alolan Muck. One Icicle Spear not going to be enough to knock out here. We're going to see a very comfortable no-shield from the Alolan Muck, as Muck can tank a second Icicle Spear here as well. Opponent sends in a Gengar. Opponent running some serious spice. Gotta respect the Gengar. Going for a very risky Acid Spray bait, and it pays off, as now the Gengar is extremely debuffed. Look at the Dragon Breath damage here. Oh my goodness. Gengar always hits hard. That Shadow Ball nearly gets a one-hit KO. Gengar is going to get hexed down by the Dusknoir. What does the opponent have in the back? We know about the Wall Rain. It's a Virizion, and we're going to see Dusknoir firing off the Ominous Wind. Ominous Wind is no shielded. There's another boost. Honestly, I might have liked to see a Shadow Ball here in case the opponent tries to call it. They do end up calling it. No boost this time. Opponent has farmed up quite a bit of energy. We do see the shield from the Dusknoir. It's a Sacred Sword, so they're running Stone Edge. But the opponent doesn't build up to the Stone Edge. They needed to try and commit to force energy from the Dusknoir, because now Dusknoir can massively overfarm here, and this Ominous Wind is going to be able to pick up the knockout. Down goes the Virizion, back in comes the Wall Rain, and oh my goodness, Wall Rain has the Icicle Spear, but Dusknoir has the back-to-back Ominous Winds. We see another boost from the Ominous Wind. Oh my goodness, the Icicle Spear does not KO. There is the Shadow Ball. It is +2 or +3 at this point, so that will easily KO the Wall Rain and take the win. Picking up an absolutely terrible lead in the next match, Shadow Dusknoir into Pidgeot. Now, Pidgeot is an absolute wall to energy from Dusknoir. We're going to see a save switch into the Shadow Kingdra. Opponent, do they go for the Brave Bird here? No, they go for the Feather Dance, and the Feather Dance is no shielded. Kingdra continuing to farm. Unfortunately, Kingdra is going to be met with another move from the Pidgeot. Pidgeot opting to go for another Feather Dance, and now they're going to send in Tapu Fini. So the opponent definitely has misplayed this to start. They had a complete hard counter to energy from Kingdra, and they chose to stay in and double debuff with the Pidgeot. So the opponent making a pretty big error to start out this game, and that could be to Super Shadow number 0's advantage. Gonna send in the Alolan Muck. Alolan Muck is gonna be able to withstand damage here as the Tapu Fini goes for the Moonblast. Moonblast does a ton of damage though. Unfortunately, not going to be able to make it to the Acid Spray, and we're gonna see a no shield, just leaving it all up to the Dusknoir. Back in comes the Pidgeot, and this game is basically over. There's functionally not a way to win it. The Ominous Wind boost does come through, but unfortunately the opponent is just going to be able to nullify those boosts with debuffs from Feather Dance. Another Ominous Wind is going to connect. This is just always going to be a Feather Dance. We do see the no shield. Unfortunately, the Dusknoir, not only is it dealing double resisted damage, but it's now been double debuffed by that Feather Dance. This Ominous Wind is going to connect. We see another boost from the Dusknoir. Dusknoir trying its best to stay in this game, but the Feather Dances, oh my goodness, the poor Dusknoir just getting its attack continually debuffed and debuffed and debuffed. Ominous Wind is going to be shielded. Guess what? It's going to be another Feather Dance from the Pidgeot. Pidgeot just proven to be much too much for this team to handle here. We are going to see another Ominous Wind thrown by the Dusknoir. Dusknoir really hoping to see the final Mon, but it's not to be. We see another Core Breaker on the lead in the next match. Shadow Dusknoir going up against Galarian Weezing. Dusknoir farming up, tries to go for the Brutal Swing catch. The catch is unsuccessful, and this could be a play rough. And it is. Shadow Kingdra nearly gets one shot. Opponent is going to send in Cobalion, and Cobalion gets a big farm. Back in comes the Shadow Dusknoir. Dusknoir is going to be firing off the Ominous Wind, fishing for one of those boosts. Ominous Wind does get the boost, but even with the boost, this is still going to be a very difficult game to win. Opponent does not bait. The Stone Edge is shielded. Shadow Dusknoir farming up, and Shadow Dusknoir is going to win Charge Attack priority. Going for the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball is going to be able to pick up the knockout. Does the opponent send back in the Weezing? If they do, things could get quite difficult, but they don't. They send in Jellicent. Jellicent going to be met with a boosted Ominous Wind. Opponent might feel inclined to shield here, and they do. And we see another boost from the Dusknoir. Dusknoir is going to be respecting the Shadow Ball. Opponent only ends up going for the Surf. Dusknoir continuing to farm, going for another Ominous Wind here. This is a +2 Ominous Wind. Opponent commits the shield. We now see a switch into the Muck. Unfortunately, switching out does mean that the boosts on the Dusknoir have been reset. But the Muck is now in a pretty good spot going up against this Galarian Weezing. As we can see, now that the Acid Spray debuff has been applied, these Poison Jabs are just shredding the Weezing. Play Rough does a ton of damage, but they get farmed down, and the Muck leaves with a Dark Pulse, and it looked like that may have been a CMP tie, and Shadow Alolan Muck will pick up the knockout, and despite the terrible lead, still able to take the win. Speaking of tough leads, leading Shadow Dusknoir into a green is an absolute disaster. Able to make a catch of the crunch onto the Shadow Alolan Muck, because interestingly enough, this is actually a Bullet Seed Greedent. Now, Greedent, you are always going to want to run Mud Shot as the fast move, but the opponent hasn't used that fast TM, and since it was a 3-turn on a 3-turn and they didn't wait a turn, it was a very easy catch onto the Alolan Muck. Muck goes for the Acid Spray, able to grab a shield from that Lantern. That shield is a surprise, as the opponent could have tanked a Dark Pulse pretty comfortably there, but not only are they debuffed, they're down a shield, and they're not going to make a Thunderbolt, and this gives a massive energy head start to the Shadow Kingdra. Up a shield, up energy, opponent sends in the Obstagoon. Honestly, do you just outrage here? I don't think the opponent is likely to shield. I like full sending here because this would do a massive amount of damage. Opponent does call the bait. I mean, the debuff is quite nice, as now you can tank a Night Slash. Opponent actually going for Cross Chop. In neutral situations, as the Obstagoon, you are going to want to go for the Night Slash, as Night Slash does do slightly more damage neutrally. We now see Kingdra committing a shield. Kingdra farming up quite a bit. Is Kingdra looking for the farm down? It is, but Kingdra going to have to give up the final shield, which is very, very tough. Back in comes the Greedent, and we're going to see Kingdra firing off the Octazooka. Octazooka gets no shielded. Kingdra firing off another Octazooka, continuing to fish for these debuffs. Octazooka connects. We do see the debuff. Dusknoir only double resisted moves, but the opponent doesn't know the moveset, and they shield an Ominous Wind. No shields remaining for the Dusknoir, which means this Crunch is going to connect. Crunch does some solid damage. Dusknoir continuing to fish for boosts, hoping against hope that a boost is going to come, but it does not. 0 for 2 on boosts, and this is going to be another Crunch. Crunch connects. Dusknoir very, very low. Opponent switches into the Obstagoon, trying for a catch. Obstagoon is going to get hexed down. That is a triple resisted fast move farm down. The Ominous Wind is thrown, but unfortunately not able to switch out here. Body Slam is going to pick up the knockout. In comes the Kingdra, and Dragon Breath reigns supreme. The 1 HP farm down. We've got a Battle of Spice in the next match. Shadow Dusknoir into Milotic. This Milotic, he's actually running Waterfall, which is a bit of a surprise. Dusknoir gonna bank an Ominous Wind to save switch into the Kingdra, but the opponent came prepared. They have a Charm Primarina in the back, and this is basically the hardest counter to Shadow Kingdra in the game. Octazooka will get the attack drop. All that does realistically, besides lowering their attack, is just give the Primarina a little bit of extra energy. In comes the Shadow Alolan Muck. Since the Primarina is debuffed, able to tank that Disarming Voice very comfortably and get a farm down. In the back, opponent has Melmetal, and landing this Dark Pulse would be very, very helpful to trying to win this game. The Dark Pulse is going to connect. That does a lot of damage to the Melmetal. Honestly, I think you just let this go and save it for the Dusknoir. Melmetal goes for the superpower, a switch back into the Dusknoir. Dusknoir goes for the Ominous Wind. That connects. Dusknoir can't get the farm down. Opponent is going to make it to a debuffed Rock Slide here. Oh, they didn't. It was just the superpower. In comes Milotic. But now the question is, can Milotic potentially just waterfall all the way down? Ominous Wind gets the boost. Well, not if the boost has anything to say about it. The Surf by Milotic is going to be shielded, but this is still very, very tough. The health of Dusknoir rapidly diminishing. Dusknoir firing off another Ominous Wind. Might need a second boost here, and unfortunately does not get it. We're going to see the shield as the opponent fires off the Surf. Can Dusknoir make it to a move? This is going to be close. Dusknoir able to hang on, make it to the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball KOs Milotic, and Melmetal is going to get knocked out by a Hex. Hopping into the final match, and you can't see much of a worse lead than this. Shadow Dusknoir into Obstagoon. Dusknoir staying in this matchup, looking for a switch into the Alolan Muck. Let's see, did the opponent react in time? They did, as they go for the Cross Chop. So pretty nice reaction time there by the opponent. Muck continuing to farm. Opponent is going to be firing off a charge move. Neither move will KO here. Opponent goes for the Night Slash, looking for the boost, but apparently only Super Shadow number 0 is allowed to boost, so the Night Slash boost does not come through. The Acid Spray does get shielded by the opponent. Alolan Muck, at this point, just choosing to let this go. Obstagoon goes for the Night Slash. Night Slash plus the counter will be enough to get the KO. In comes Kingdra. Kingdra looking for a farm down, can't quite get there before the Obstagoon makes a last last second charge move. They go for the cross chop. Night Slash would do slightly more damage there. And let's see what they have in the back. It's a Wall Rain farming up here to the Shadow Outrage, baiting with the Octazooka. This is a very risky bait. Gets the shield from the opponent, but does not get the debuff. Wall Rain will fire off the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear, barely not enough to KO. Back in comes Dusknoir. Dusknoir firing off the Ominous Wind, hoping for one of its signature boosts. Ominous Wind connects. We do not see the boost. Opponent is going to fire off the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear will be shielded up by the Dusknoir in the bag. It's a Giratina altered, and the Giratina is running Dragon Breath as the fast move. Going for another Ominous Wind here. Will it get a boost? It will not. The Dusknoir, when it needs it the most, not giving the boosts in this final game. The Dragon Claw does get shielded. Dusknoir continuing to farm, making it to one final Ominous Wind. This Ominous Wind should come close to knocking out here. The Ominous Wind connects. There's the boost right on cue. In comes the Wall Rain. Wall Rain now going to be met with another Ominous Wind. It's boosted. Will it be enough to KO? It will not. But one Dragon Breath from Kingdra takes the game. All in all, these are some extremely fun battles, and goes to show that with a boost or two, some crazy things can happen in Go Battle League. Shadow Dusknoir itself is a Pokemon that I would love to see get a move update in the future, as currently, its current moveset does leave it a bit lacking. Hex as a fast move is okay, but it's not like an amazing fast move by any means. And then, it does have a variety of different charge moves it can pick from, like Ominous Wind, Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball. I believe it also gets Psychic, but unfortunately none of these really provide amazing coverage, so I would like to see it potentially get a better coverage move down the road. As it's a Pokemon, as we've seen, when it's boosted, this thing can output a tremendous amount of damage, but man, that game against the Pidgeot, where it was just spamming those double resisted moves left and right, and the Pidgeot was just taking no damage, was absolutely brutal. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.